Bring your gasoline and count to 7 because we have the scariest film to come out on Netflix since A Christmas Prince. Netflix's The Haunting of Hill House is truly a horrific tale that masterfully blends family drama with horror while weaving a complex mythology around Hill House and its many ghostly entities. Now, because this show is so massive, this video is split into 2 parts, half 1 explaining the ghosts and half 2 explaining the ending. So if you want to skip the first portion and get right to the ending, I've left a link in the description. Now let's get into the fun stuff. The Haunting of Hill House is filled with dozens of ghosts. Some we see and actually play a role in the story, others we don't see but are mentioned, like the unblinking lady the boy from episode 1 believes is his grandmother, or Carhorn Carl, who Steve investigates in that episode as well. Finally, there are mystery ghosts who show up hidden in the frame, like here, or here. We don't know anything about them, and they have no impact on the story, so for the purposes of this segment, we're going to focus on those ghosts that we see and affect the storyline. First is the Bent Neck Lady, or as we find out in episode 5, Nellie. Drawn back to the home after being haunted by her, and at the suggestion of her therapist to confront her demons, Nellie ventures back to Hill House only to be seduced by its charm, ultimately ending in her hanging. And when she does so, we realize it was her all along. The ghost of the Bent Neck Lady was her haunting her as a child and through her adult life. How that's possible, I'll discuss in the ending segment. The Bent Neck Lady, or Dead Nellie, acts as a benevolent ghost, helping the kids out from their dreams in the Red Room, warning them away from Hill House, and even getting pissed off when they fight with each other.
Guys, the wrong parent died!
Her ghost is arguably the most important because Nellie's death is what brings all the kids together, forcing them to confront their traumas and move on with their lives. If it weren't for Nellie, the Bent Neck Lady, Luke would still be an addict, Steve would still be estranged from his wife, Theo would continue to distance herself from others, and Shirley would still live with the guilt of her affair. Not so benevolent is Olivia, the matriarch of the family. After killing herself while under the spell of Poppy Hill, who we'll get to in a minute, she spends her time trying to get the children back to Hill House.
Come home, my love.
She wants to be with them forever, or as she calls it, awake, which is just Hill House speak for dead. In fact, in episode 9, she says she wishes she could just freeze them, keep them young forever. This is especially evident in episode 10 when Luke overdoses and is confronted with his mother at the tea party. He can sit and stay with her forever, but it's young Nellie who tells him don't go before older Nellie brings him out of his dream. Olivia tells Hugh at the end she wants to keep them there to protect them. These kids aren't ready for the world out there, the pain, the sorrow, and she's partly right. Look at how they all turned out after her death. At least in Hill House, nothing bad will touch them, but Hugh reminds her nothing good will either. Olivia also appears as a coping mechanism for Hugh, helping him with what to say to his children at Nellie's funeral. As Steve says in episode 1, ghosts can take many forms, but most times they are a wish. Hugh wants to see his wife, so he imagines her. Luke later calls him out on it, reminding him what he said when he was a child. Big boys know the difference between what is real and imaginary. Our third ghost delves into the history of Hill House with Poppy Hill, the wife of William Hill, the bowler hat man, and sister-in-law to Hazel Hill, the old lady Clara looked after on her deathbed. Poppy met William at the mental asylum where they were both patients. When they got out, they married and moved to Hill House. Hazel and Poppy had a tumultuous relationship, Hazel calling her a liar to Olivia when Poppy tries to get her to kill her children. Poppy had 3 children with William, all 3 of which is heavily implied she killed. In her conversation with Olivia, she recounts how all of them died, notably her son who lost feeling in his legs and died cold in her arms. We even get a glimpse of him in episode 6. He's the wheelchair boy Olivia sees in her dream during the storm. Poppy went mad, believing she can save her kids from the hardships of the world by killing them, or as she refers to it as, awakening them. She then tries to get Olivia to do the same with her children, and this mental episode could have been partly brought upon by her husband's infidelity. William Hill, aka the tall man with the cane, was Poppy's husband. We learn in episode 7 that he walled himself in Hill House in an attempt to escape from the demons, fear, and guilt. The fear and guilt coming from his affair with a housemaid. Horace Dudley tells Hugh that he was born in Hill House and his mother worked there. He could often hear his mother giggling to herself outside their cottage as if talking to someone, leading me to believe that Horace is the illegitimate son of William Hill. Hill, and Poppy likely knew about her husband's love for women. In episode 9, she says to Olivia,
"You are a looker, aren't you? A real tomato Willie's gonna just love you."
In episode 10, Trish tells Theo that she once knew a man who had 2 sisters, Fear and Guilt. Every day they turned him a little more mad. He walled himself in to get away from them. His fear and guilt made him feel small, but when he awoke, he was tall. That was his dream. That is the story of William Hill. We then have Abigail, the daughter of Horace and Clara Dudley. We first see her as Luke's imaginary friend, but at this point it's reasonable to believe she is real. It's only when Olivia arrives back and has the poison tea party that Abigail dies and joins the countless other ghosts in Hill House. Horace and Clara, seeing their daughter's ghost, make a deal with Hugh that they'll keep his secret to save his children's memory of Olivia as long as he doesn't burn down Hill House. This deal made out of the love for their child, who they can now visit any time they want. In the final episode, Horace brings a dying Clara to Hill House so she too can be with Abigail forever. We then have who I like to call the Scotch drinking man, Ryan Quayle, who is first seen in episode 2 and not again until episode 6. Seeing as this show defines a ghost broadly, for example, they can be a memory, daydream, grief, or guilt, among other things, Ryan is Shirley's guilty ghost. She had a one-night stand with him while at the embalming convention, very romantic, and she never told her husband about it. He continually haunts her as a reminder of her guilt. We also have Luke, who, for a brief moment, appears as a ghost to Nellie. His ghostly appearance is because he actually dies for a brief moment before being resuscitated. We then have a cadre of minor ghosts who appear as daydreams, hallucinations, fears, and wishes. There's Mr. Smiley, the manifestation of young Kelsey's molesting foster father, who took the form of the floorboards which Theo saw. The clock repairman, whose sole purpose in the plot is to prove to Steve that he was seeing ghosts all the time, but he just didn't realize it. We then have Lee, Joey, and Shirley, who all turn into manifestations of fears for Stephen, Luke, and Shirley herself. The ghosts and haunting of Hill House provide the impetus for change in our characters. They are what make our characters confront their traumas, and it's the ending of Hill House that really solidifies this message. Only by confronting our troubles can we no longer be haunted by the past and strive to live better lives. As Nellie's therapist says in episode 5, her real problem is not her siblings, it's not confronting the pain of her past. The events of Hill House created traumas for our characters, each one coping with them in different ways. From Luke's addiction, Theo's meaningless sex and inability to open up, Nellie's depression, Shirley the control freak, or Steve's unwillingness to see the truth. Their ways of coping, like Luke's drugs for example, don't get at the core of what caused these traumas in the first place. They are merely band-aids. It's only when each character is confronted by their worst fear in the Red Room that they must face it head on. There is no place to hide here. Steve must confront his belief that if he had a child, it'll turn out diseased like his mother. Shirley must confront her infidelity. Luke, his addiction which he overcomes by choosing not to die. And Theo, her inability to open up and let others love her. Bottling up our trauma, keeping secrets, only makes things worse, and those things can haunt us. Perhaps the greatest encapsulation of this is when Shirley confronts her dead body in episode 10. The funeral manager tells her on the outside she is fixed and pretty, but on the inside she is a horror. Our greatest horrors are not what's on the outside, they are buried within us. When Nellie releases them all from their dreams, they each have a chance to apologize to her, but she tells them she knows they all love each other unconditionally, and that love is all that matters. The rest is confetti. Interesting is her speech about time, stating that she used to think it was linear, but it's more like rain, moments falling around us. This explains how she, as a younger girl, saw herself as the bent-neck lady. The Red Room, according to Nellie, is like the stomach of the house, putting on faces so it can slowly digest them. Hugh even tells Steve that the house has called them back because they're like an unfinished meal. A stomach breaks down into pieces what we put into it, just like how the Red Room breaks down the Crane family. When Hugh and Stephen drive to Hill House, Hugh makes reference to the clock repairman in the overalls with the handlebar mustache. He tells Stephen about witness marks, scars found on antique clocks which show the repairs that have been done to them. Hill House is much like an antique clock, and the characters are the witness marks.
Whatever that life is, We bear witness.
The Crane family even came there to repair the house. Remember that Hugh and Olivia are house flippers. And just like an antique clock, there is no record of their previous repairs, hence why Olivia must recreate floor plans and why we know so little about the previous tenants. We, the viewer, will see the damage through the other characters who bear witness to these ghostly beings. As I said before, it's only by confronting their traumas, their hearts of darkness, do the characters leave Hill House healed. Stephen reconciles with his father and Lee. We even get a short glimpse of Lee pregnant at the end with Luke celebrating his recovery. Shirley comes clean about her infidelity to her husband, and Theo moves out, throwing away her gloves and apparently in a relationship with Trish, who she had constantly pushed away. But the house gives and takes, and the price for this was Hugh. At the end of the episode, we see that Hugh has died, and he says a final farewell to Stephen before joining Olivia and Nellie. I believe that when he said goodbye to his children as they fled, he was already dead, and they were seeing him as a ghost. That his death was a deal he made with Olivia to let his children go free. When Hugh tells Liv to let them go, she breaks down, telling them that she'll be alone again. A few moments later, he tells her that he'll make a promise that will last forever. But we as the viewer never get to hear what that promise is. He tells her, "Let me fix it," and sacrifices himself to be with Olivia in exchange for letting the children go. Take a look at Olivia's face looking back at Stephen when Hugh goes to join them in the Red Room. It's not one of happiness, it's one of a woman who just let her children go, knowing it will be longer before they're finally reunited. Last but not least is Stephen's monologue about love and fear, how they both involve the relinquishment of logic, this willing relinquishment of reasonable patterns. We either give into it or fight it. There's no meeting halfway. Without it, we cannot continue to live sanely under conditions of absolute reality. And that's what our characters have tried to do ever since they left Hill House, meet in that halfway. And it's only when they give in to love, to be honest with one another, that they can all live sanely in the absolute reality, never to be haunted again. The Haunting of Hill House is an emotional tale, one that shows us our greatest fears lay in our innermost horrors, our traumas. The pain to take on those traumas is sometimes too much, and we cope with drugs, sex, or the easy way out. It's only when we confront our demons that they can no longer exist, and it's through that confrontation that we become stronger. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. If not, you can find me in the Red Room. I also have a Twitter account where you can get updates on my videos, and check out my other breakdowns on this channel. Until next time.